Welcome back to the next Roadmap to Resilience class, where today we're talking about resilience in action. Resilience comes in all shapes and sizes, and you probably know many people in your own life that have taught you so much about resilience. Can you think of that person? What did they teach you about living with control, commitment, and challenge? I truly learned the foundation of resilience from my parents. My mom, Joy Wright, was born to immigrants from Hong Kong in British Guyana. And she decided after growing up in a British school system that she wanted to immigrate to the United States to go to college. You know, my mom is one tough lady, and she taught me all through life that we can take little bits of control, that everything is fixable when we take it one step at a time, that if we have a purpose, that we can go forward and meet the challenges. And I'm so thankful that she was an amazing example in my own life. Today is an incredible class. We have the stories of some amazing people telling you all about their journeys in resilience.
I think when I hear resilience, I actually feel fatigue in terms of thinking about the resilience that Black women and Black people in general have had to show generation after generation. You really just feel like I'm tired, and I no longer want to have to be resilient. I want to pass that torch to someone else. Because of everything my ancestors have gone through, I know that my DNA has been literally shaped by adversity. I mean, they survived things that should have destroyed them and should have killed them. So if my DNA was passed along through them, then there's nothing that I can't overcome. I truly do always have to keep a focus. For me, my focus literally is set on, even when you're tired, if you're looking at your nieces and nephews and your future children, is your fatigue too great that they aren't worth it? But when I think along those lines, it really is one of those, there'll never be enough of any issue that would make me feel like I don't have an extra inch to give, or, you know, another day of effort of some sort.
I think about my own ancestors being not considered a citizen, but the resilience that they had and the hard work that they put in, knowing that they may not see the fruit of their labor, but they were making things better for the future. The lives that were lost on so many different levels, where resilience allowed them to provide and create a pathway for me.
Resiliency isn't always strengthened and experienced through our own life experiences. It can also happen through observations of others. One of my biggest resilient teachers is my son. What I saw in him was he had this keen ability to adapt in situations, to pivot, and that helped him to be very resilient in life. He was somebody who had a very healthy sense of detachment. He was him with almost an unapologetic sense of himself, and figured the world would catch up with him. There were a lot of things he experienced in being socially isolated and socially rejected that crushed me to watch. And if it had been me at that age, I would have been an absolute mess. And although he was sad by this, he also just like, well, I think they just don't get me. And that's okay if they don't get me. And I was so amazed by that he just kept looking in the world as he was in it, but he was also moving alongside of it. And he was so ready for anyone that would walk the path with him. That's when I started seeking out people in my life that had resiliency in action and resiliency in their life, and not just from the experiences that they had, but also just from their personality.
The thing that shaped my resilience more than anything else was hearing the stories of my immigrant grandparents. That was really probably the most formative experience for me in developing my own resilience, was seeing examples of it very close to me, all around me, and recognizing that the people who were raising me were heroic. And in many ways, they were ordinary heroes, like so many folks in this country, but they were the best example for me of resilience and probably what shaped me more than anything else.
We often think of resilience of everything we can do independently, but there's a broader vision to this about how do you recover might involve other individuals helping you to get to that point of recovery. I'll share with you an example of working as a trauma nurse and realizing that there's a patient who was going to die and it's just a daughter that's there with them, and they asked if we could stay with them. And I'll be honest, I'm terrified because the passing of someone, it's quite emotional. You've grown to take care of this individual in the most personal way. And in that moment, I looked over and I saw the daughter of the patient, and she was a mess. And I realized that as difficult as it is for me as her nurse, for the daughter, it was maybe 10 times as difficult. And what it did for me in that moment is recognize my role for her was to be a person of strength, still being emotional appropriately, but being strong for them in that moment. And because I recognize that there is also strength in assuming that role, I could go into other difficult situations and saying that, that was difficult and I got through it with the help of understanding my role in that situation. And that might be one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, trying to be resilient for someone else.
I think that resilience is definitely passed on in certain habits and, values. I look at my parents all the time and I just wonder, how did you guys do it? They literally immigrated here with no money, with only part of their family. They just had to survive. They had to figure out no matter what they could do to survive. They had no idea that they were going to end up having 5 children here in the United States, but they did whatever they could to survive. And now, luckily, we have this wonderful life and we're able to take care of ourselves.
After hearing all these stories of resilience, it's now time for you to do the following 3 tasks to build your own resilience. The first task is to ask someone you know about their resilience story. Maybe you ask your grandparents or a friend of yours that you know has gone through a hard time. Listen carefully. What can you learn from them? How did they take control in the small situations? How did they rise to the challenge, and how did they show their commitment? By listening to their story, you can find takeaways that you can apply in your own life to build a better resilience. Your second task is to think about a time when you exhibited resilience. We can often learn from ourselves and figure out how to do better in the next situation. Life is not always easy, and even in the little things of every day, sometimes we have to be resilient. Think of one of those times, and let's learn from ourselves. If you've been with us over the last several months on this roadmap to resilience, now it's time to pay it forward. We hope you've learned skills in control, challenge, and commitment that you can teach someone else. There are probably people in your own lives right now that could use your help. Help them go through their situation and apply what you've learned on your roadmap to resilience in your friend's life. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Roadmap to Resilience. Remember to leave your comments or questions in the section below, to subscribe so you always know when the next lesson is coming, and please share with your friends. We'll see you next time.